Hey, I think somebody sent you some art supplies.
Oh, thanks.
You got it.
Wait,
Huh?
did this come like this? Come like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know, did it come in a box or anything? Or was it just like this?
Of course it did.
Oh. So did you open my mail?
No, I opened my mail.
These were for you.
No, they're for you. Think about it.
So you did open my mail.
Okay. I literally can't open your mail, because if I open your mail, I'm opening my mail.
Okay, so these had your name on them.
Okay. No, they had your name. You know what? Don't overthink it. I gotta go. I'm busy. Do the review, okay? See ya.
I'm so confused. Welcome back, you beautiful artists. Today's video is going to be a slight change from what we're normally used to here on this channel. Today, we're gonna do a product review. Recently, I was contacted by the company Artistro to do an honest product review of some of the items that they have off their, I'd say, decently sized catalog of art supplies. Artistro is a relatively new company that started back in 2015, and although this is not a paid review, they did send me some free products to try out and give my honest opinion. Now, even though Artistro is known primarily for their extensive line of paint pens, they also sell acrylic paints, and that is where I come in. I was sent this 24-piece acrylic paint set. Now, before we jump into the review, I want to find out what's in the box.
What's in the box?
At first glance, it just appears to be your basic acrylic paint box set. Nothing too special about the packaging. It does have this cool design on it, which I like. It's almost this acrylic pour idea. One of the things that I do think is kind of cool that you don't normally see in a lot of these box sets, they decided to add 3 brushes and a palette, which is A+ to you on that one. Out of this box set, you're getting the 22 milliliter or 0.74 fluid ounces, which is pretty standard in these box sets, especially for this price, which is $22.49, by the way, on their website. Now, before we pop this colorful son of a bee open, let's flip it over and see what's on the back. Okay, so what we're looking at here is it gives you all of the colors, which I think is kind of cool. For the most part, these paint sets typically do that. They'll give you the basic information, which is your light fastness, your transparency level, your pigment code. What I do think is kind of cool here is they kind of explain what that is for their standards. They do give you a gold and a silver, which is kind of cool if you're painting in a metallic version. But all in all, these colors are pretty standard fare. With that being said, let's open this up and see what we're getting. Okay, so far it looks like we're getting a double packaging of plastic, which means that the inside of these paints are also plastic. Just fine. I think it's kind of cool so they don't fall out. I get it. All right. At first glance, everything looks neat. These tubes look pretty nice. I am a stickler for presentation, so you throw something in that looks nice, you're getting some extra points with me. You've got your paint palette, which is, you know, it's a tiny paint palette, so we'll put that to the side there. You've got a little product info here telling us basically just about who they are. I can appreciate that. Then we have what looks to be a sticker set, which, okay, not a big sticker guy. I do like that they have little inspirational things on them. Be confident, be unique, be humble. It's kind of on brand for what they are. I don't exactly know what I'm going to put these stickers on. Maybe I'll stick it to every painting I do with these paints. I don't know. So to really take a look and judge the quality of these paints, what we're going to do is we're going to compare it to Blick's both economy paint and student paint and see which one it's closer to before I can tell you in what capacity you should use these paints. But before we do that, let's open this up and take a look at those brushes. So basically what I'm seeing here is 2 flats, one in the 8 realm and one in the 6 realm. I feel the need to point this out. Numbers on a brush really don't matter unless you're looking at the exact company. So if you were to say, oh, I've got a 0 round or a 2 flat, that doesn't really matter. It only matters to the company. So don't ever buy your brushes based on the number. Buy them on the based on the width or length of the brush itself. Little side note for you. Doesn't really matter. Thought I'd point that out. And then you've got a 4 round. Now, if you're using this kit to paint for yourself, you're clearly not going to be using this on big applications. It is a kit meant for small paintings, so I think today we're going to use small canvases. I think to test this out, we'll use something around this size. Now, like I was saying before, for me to be able to test these accurately and recommend them for certain types of things, I need to figure out what realm they are. Are they economy paints or are they student grade artist paint? To the naked eye, you wouldn't really be able to tell, so to speak. It's when you get into the application of it all is when you can really tell. Now, an artist grade student paint will be a little bit more buttery. It'll have a little bit more opaqueness to it. Now, an economy paint, on the other hand, will be a little bit more transparent and the colors won't be as vibrant, especially when you're mixing them with whites. So today I think we're going to use blue just to test out the difference between economy and student for two reasons. One, I think that blue has a good color transparency when it comes to coverage, and two, blue is really the only color I have in different grades. So that's what we're using today. So let me take this out. I'm gonna put all this to the side and we're gonna get this set up. Okay, now that we're all set up, let's see how these paints look. I'm gonna squeeze it out on the top and I'm gonna pull it down. It's the best way to sort of test the transparency and viscosity of the paint. Today, I'm just gonna use a bigger brush. I'm not gonna use theirs for this little test, only because this will pull better. I'm honestly very pleasantly surprised by that. I was fully expecting a more economy style paint for this price, given that these tubes are so small and there's so many of them. I have to be honest, so far I'm really happy with the results. Now, even though the box says that they have a high transparency, they sit more with the student grade. The economy has a lot less opaqueness than, say, a student grade paint. When you compare it with Blick's student artist grade paint or their studio line, you can tell that the viscosity and color pigment is much higher than, say, some sort of budget paint that you would get from Michael's, like an Artist Loft or Blick's economy line. And I'm really happy about that. You know, the transparency in these paints pulled through really well, and they have an opaqueness even though that they say on the back of the box it's high transparency. I gotta disagree. You guys are doing great on the transparency and opaqueness of these. Well, now that we know what category we could really thrust these paints into, let's figure out what these little suckers can do. I mean, before we start, can we just talk about how cute this is? I mean, look at this little guy. Look at it. I mean, I have huge hands. What am I gonna do with this? Look, I can't. Ready? Super cute! Okay, now normally I would prime or prep the canvas before I start, but I'm not gonna do that here because I wanna see what these paints can do in their raw form. I need to learn things like mixability and transparency, so on and so forth. So we're gonna just kind of jump right in. Okay, so what I'm using here is their mid-yellow, vermilion red, phthalo blue, I imagine titanium white and probably an ivory or jet black, what I'm thinking it is. But for this, let's just paint a little sunset with a palm tree in the foreground.
Don't make me dance to a tune that you're humming. No, my body don't move like that. Don't make me pretend I don't see your shortcomings. You'll be running when I raise the black flag. Get out your bomb and fly away. We'll be dancing with our hands in the air when our new dawn is rising, to the break of dawn. You can't keep me in a cage made of tired ideas. It's rusting out faster by the day. I won't wear your leash, I won't take no deals. I won't stay quiet when there's so much left to say. I'm not buying no mirage of suburban life when there's a fire raging just outside our door. You talk about peace on earth and the summer of love while you're sleeping on pills through the war. Get out your bomb and fly away. We'll be dancing with our hands in the air when our new dawn is rising. We'll be dancing with our hands in the air when our new dawn is rising.
All right, so I have some thoughts. Let me start off by saying this is not a bad paint. It isn't. But I do have my issues with it. But before I tell you those, let me tell you what I actually like about this paint. The colors in these paints are incredibly vibrant. You've got some very bright yellows, a good hue on the red, you have some great depth in your blue and your black, and your white has such a high viscosity that it becomes very bright. And viscosity is good in this sense. Now, I know that earlier I compared this to more of a mid-grade studio paint, but I think after further inspection, I'm gonna classify this as an economy paint. And let me tell you why, because this is where my issues come in. If you look at what I have here, you can see that it's incredibly glossy. And there's a reason for that. The gloss from acrylic paint comes from the binder, which is usually just an acrylic polymer mixed with water. Then you take that acrylic polymer and water mixture and you mix it with the raw powdered pigment to get your color. This in lies my first issue. It's really sticky, and I think I know why. Most of the expensive acrylic paints that you see will use a very high quality binder with a raw pigment powder. Mix those together to create those nice sort of buttery, very vibrant colors. But when you get into the realm of more economy paints, what happens is you tend to use a cheaper binder and up the pigment hue, which is a synthetic pigment. And what happens is you get a sticky, very dry paint, which is what we're getting here, because even though the viscosity is high, what I imagine is happening is they're using less binder and more pigment to make the colors seem a bit more vibrant. Now, that's not to say that's always necessarily a bad thing. It's just you have to be a bit more deliberate with what you're doing, and the paint doesn't flow like you'd want it to. Now, more experienced artists would be able to sort of offset this, and that's fine. But when you're really beginning, it becomes difficult if you don't exactly know what you're doing. Now, am I saying this is a bad paint? No, not at all. I actually don't believe that it is. But it is a specific paint. And if I'm being honest, you're not going to be creating masterpieces with this. But I don't think that's what this is designed to do. I like to refer to a paint like this as a practice paint. It's good for things like this where you can test colors and you can test pulls and mixtures, giving you solid practice at the paints that you're using. And if you do want to pick this paint up, I will make it easy for you. I will leave links down in the description to where you can get it. Now, full disclosure, I do get a little bit of kickback if you use any of those links, but please, please do not feel obligated like you need to. If you want to get it, get it. If you don't, don't. If you want to just go to Amazon without using the link, feel free. It doesn't matter to me. I just want you to get the best quality product for what your intentions are. But I think that's a great place to end the video there. As always, thank you so much for deciding to spend a few minutes of your day with me. It is always much appreciated. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications, blah, 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 blah. You get it.